for two. Kickers are extra, I give them the boot. Ooh, going for two. Sit back, relax while I grab me a brew. Ooh, now I'm reclining while putting my time and I'm ready to go. My spine is aligning and much my lineups, my bank account grow. I am so rich, but knowledge is all that I'm leaving it with. Ooh, listen to this. Multiple options, how far can I get? Ooh, DFS Dynasty redraft tonight, I'm not finishing last. I'm finishing past any and all, I am looking to last. What else? This spot is popping and I am so locked in and only opening the door when it is opportunity knocking. And all of these spots keep on talking and talking. So what are we talking? What kind of alignment? And running it deep, even players forgotten or came from the bottom or hitting that top end. And this spot is popping, yeah, this spot is popping. And woo, this is the armchair. Yeah, put up your arms, yeah, sound the alarm, yeah, yeah, yeah. Woo.
What is going on, guys, and welcome to episode 370 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I am your host, of course, Geoff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeoffLambert77. Of course, we're part of the Going for Two Live network. We're live every Wednesday night on Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and, of course, on all major podcast networks. And you can also find all of our stuff at goingfor2.live. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Ryan Searfoss. You can follow him, of course, at Foss534. What's up, Ryan?
Oh, not much. Glad to be back after a week off last week. I think that was last week. But yeah, glad to be back and up again. Glad John's here.
Good stuff. Yes. I only have to introduce this guy. This guy is, we just talked about it pre-show here. This is his 6th straight year coming on and doing this show with us. Of course, the great John Laub. He's a co-host of the Rookie Big Board podcast. He's also at playerprofiler.com, and you can find him at Gridiron Skull 91. And John, you've got some changes in your fantasy professional life since the last time you were on. You want to talk about it a little bit?
Yeah, unfortunately, the publisher at footballdiehards.com got sick, so he decided to take a year off. We'll see what happens down the road in the future. But people reached out to me, and I talked to some amazing people. And got a couple offers, and I decided to join the Player Profiler team and continue to work with the Rookie Big Board and my teammate Matt Hicks. So I landed in a very good spot, very happy about it, sad that the Football Diehards, I had been working for them like 28 years. So to see that, come to an end, but that's life. I'm getting older too, so I understand, what happens in life, and I hope Emil, I wish him the very best in his recovery. So that's obviously more important for his recovery and his family. So yeah, I'm at Player Profiler. It's great so far. Still doing, I've tweaked the written reports that I do. This is my 11th year doing written scouting reports. It's about the 9th year with my model. So, I think I've gained some experience and I'm getting a little bit better over the years. There's plenty of misses, but there's plenty of hits. And I always reflect to try to get better moving forward.
Good stuff. And Jamie said you took you did the right choice at Player Profile. It was funny because when I first saw that you were looking to, to go somewhere else, that was the first place I thought of. I just kind of like Player Profiler and John just seemed to be like a perfect match and ended up happening that way. So congratulations on that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
And Jamie's mentioning, it's a little early today. Yeah, it's when you got a guest as big as John, he says he wants to do it at 8:30. We just make the switch and we just do it at 8:30.
So we can tell the viewers and Jamie, John's getting a little up there in age, and that 5:45 alarm clock is getting harder and harder after 20 years of teaching. Yeah. And here's the thing: it's not that I'm up late with you. The biggest problem is I'm on these shows, and I exert a lot of energy. When I'm off of the show, it takes me at least an hour to fall asleep. It's not like if I could magically just I'm done at 10:30, go to bed, I'd be fine. But then I'm up till midnight. That's where the challenge is.
Absolutely.
See, I just immediately fall asleep. I don't understand that.
That's a skill, dude.
There's been a few shows that Ryan has fallen asleep while we're still on the show. We won't talk about that one.
I mean, when in Rome.
All right, today's show, as always, is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check out their industry-leading best ball leagues with huge tournaments, private leagues, and pick'ems for all major sports. Use our promo code GF2, get a deposit match up to $100. Simple as that. Sign up, use promo code GF2, and start drafting. And I will say, They just released their rookies and sophomores best ball leagues, which is my favorite league to do. You do a best ball league, and you only get to pick from last year's rookies and from this year's rookies, obviously pre-draft. It's a lot of fun. I dominated the last 2 years, so I'm hoping I can continue that streak up here. But if you
I've
check
never
me
heard
out,
of that.
yeah, it's
That looks
a really
fun,
cool
dude.
format. Yeah, it's a really cool format. Just rookies from last year, and then you got to kind of guess because you don't know landing spots yet. So you got to kind of guess on talent on who you like for this year. So it's a lot of fun. So tonight, as always with John, we do a rookie bracket that we put out our top 24 rookies. We used to do 32 rookies. This year, I actually did top 24. So the 1 seed and the 2 seed actually gets a bye in the first round to make it a little bit less daunting of a task to get through all these rookies. We put out polls on Twitter. They voted on them. And we're going to talk about that bracket tonight. As we move through the bracket, we will only talk about the loser of each bracket or of each matchup. So we only talk about that player one time throughout the entire night. But we're going to go ahead and just kick it off here. We're going to go with the first 3-6 matchup on the board. It is Adonai Mitchell versus he's the 3 seed and versus the 6 seed Jalen Polk. And Adonai Mitchell takes this contest 90% to 10%. No surprise there. But Jalen Polk, let's talk about him a little bit, John. Talk about what kind of player he is and his career, how his career could be in the NFL.
Jalen Polk is very fascinating of a prospect. We probably wouldn't even know him or he wouldn't be on the radar, but Jalen McMillan got injured this year. And if you don't know, he played for the Washington Huskies, and they were 3 deep at wide receiver. Obviously, Rome Odunze, we're going to talk about later. Then you had Jalen McMillan, and those two entered the season as total studs. McMillan gets hurt, so Jalen Polk comes in, gets his opportunity. He had over 1,000 yards. He put together a huge season. I like Polk. Now, draft capital is going to be a lot in as far as our dynasty value. He's got the size, man. He's 6'2", 204. He has a 64% catch rate, 22% aerial dominator, average 15.5 yards per catch, 13.8 ADOT. I really like him. He can play. He can be a big slot receiver. I don't think he'll ever be the alpha. I think he's ideally suited as number 3 receiver, who's in 3 receiver formations, 4 receiver formations, and you're looking for a mismatch when you put him on the field. But I do like Jalen Polk.
Yeah, I know, Ryan, you said you were a little bit behind on your reviews here. Did you get to Polk?
I did. Yeah. I kind of agree with John. For some reason, putting him in as a big slot didn't click to me. Because watching him, he kind of struggled to separate on the outside and won mainly just jump balls. Thought he had tremendous hands and could snag the ball out. You put him in the middle where he has some just built-in separation. I agree. He could be a nice slot wide receiver 3 on a team. I don't know fantasy-wise how high the ceiling is going to be. But I like if you can find ways to use them. And I think he could be a red zone threat too.
Yeah, and in Dynasty, especially in PPR leagues, some of those slot guys, they may not be the big play guy, they may not be the touchdown guy, but if they can catch, a bunch of those passes over the middle, they can definitely have value for sure, especially in a good offense. So,
John, do you think he could get enough? His skill set, even out of the slot, can garner enough volume to be fantasy wide receiver too? Because I don't know if I see him being the guy you can pepper.
I don't think he could be 100 target player. I think you're banking a little
60.
bit on efficiency. So you're looking at someone maybe 80 targets out of the slot. He gets 55 receptions and some touchdown equity. Now, obviously, you could have an opportunity when injury occurs where maybe he gets peppered with more targets. I think ideally he's a flex position player in a deep fantasy lineup. Now, with his size, maybe one year you end up with 110 targets, but I think that would be the outlier season.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's move to the 4-5 matchup in this conference. It is the 4 seed, the running back Marshawn Lloyd, going up against the 5 seed Xavier Leggett. Marshawn Lloyd takes this matchup in a fairly close matchup, 62% to 38%. So Xavier Leggett, Ryan, give me a little bit about him.
I actually love Xavier Leggett, and I see a lot of that talk about him online and stuff. I like that he play again. He's not a guy who plays above the rim, plays strong. I like that he can run through people with the ball in his hands. Yes, we've seen some questionable separation, but he kind of plays bully ball. And I think you can put him all around the field. And the right situation, I think he can be a guy who teams will try to manufacture targets for him because of what he can do. And he can create on his own, beating guys in one-on-one matchups, especially against like smaller DBs. I really like him for Leggett. I'm probably higher on him than most.
There's a comp that I've heard on Leggett, and I'm curious to your thoughts on it, John, but they're calling him like a Debo type receiver. Do you see any kind of, I know Debo's like a one of one, but do you see any little bit of Debo in him?
No, I don't think he has the agility and the fluidity of Debo. He's big, but Debo is beyond physical. We know Debo's physical, but I don't think people understand how physical he is with that fluidity and athleticism. I think Leggett could be straight line hit you, but Debo hits you with angles and with his shoulder down. And I don't think you could do 7 jet sweeps in a game. Remember when Debo was running the ball? What was it, like 3 years ago when they had no running backs?
Yep.
I don't think Leggett could ever do that. He could do it once, but I don't think he could do it throughout the game. The biggest thing with Leggett, he's a late breakout. So I understand there's going to be dynasty owners who just cross him off the list, right? What happened the first 4 years on campus, why he didn't do anything. Yes, the hurdle is greater for success when you're a late breakout. But Ryan mentioned it, man. If you watch the film this year, he's spectacular. I mean, one thing I did find out when I looked at it, he was a quarterback in high school. So I think part of the late breakout is a transition from quarterback to wide receiver. So basically, the first 2 years of his campus life at South Carolina, he was transitioning to the position. Now, if you watch some of his kick returns, he's awesome in the open field. Like, he's a dangerous man in the open field and with that size and speed. I love him in the 3rd round of dynasty drafts. I'm not going to overpay him, but I do think he could be a 900-yard, 70-catch wide receiver. Really nice flex value.
Nice. I like that. And he is in my mock drafts. He's been going in that 3rd round. So that's
the perfect. I don't want to pay 2nd round. I've seen him once in a while, Jeff. I'm like 2nd round, number 7, too early because there's too much risk. The range of outcomes is too great.
Agreed. All right, we'll now move down into the North Division here. In the 3-6 matchup in this division is Mr. Trey Benson, running back, going up against the 6th seed, Devontae Walker. Trey Benson takes this matchup 94% to 6%. I've seen a lot of people that like Tez Walker a lot, John, and I was surprised that this was so lopsided. I know it's obviously the running back, and people love the running back, and Benson seems to be the sort of the consensus 101 running back right now. But, Tez Walker has a little bit of a fan club, too. What are your thoughts on Tez Walker?
I've been up and down. I've moved him around my rankings all year, Jeff. Since the season, and by December, I start putting together my rankings. He's been as high as 10 and as low as 17. Right now, I have him at number 16. I'm trying not to, but draft capital is going to depend a lot. I don't know if the NFL likes him as much as I do. Now, there are some very interesting numbers. He has a 36% aerial dominator, but that's from Kent State. So you have to understand that's when he was playing at a G5. He didn't dominate. He only had, I think, 6 or 7 games at North Carolina this year because he transitioned up. He transferred up from G5 to Power 5. So we don't have a lot on tape against elite cornerbacks. But I do think he has some athletic skills that are going to translate. He ran a 4.36, man. That's really impressive. His ADOT is 18.2. That's insanity for an ADOT. And his yards per catch is 16.8. So those two match up. When I have a concurrence of ADOT with yards per reception, that means he's very efficient deep down the field. He might provide more for an offense that occupies safeties than he actually does fantasy-wise. I like the third. I would love to get him in the fourth round, but he's usually going in the second round. He's a little too early for me. So right now, I'm probably not going to have a lot of Walker unless the value falls.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Ryan, hearing John talk about
hard pass there.
Yeah, I was
like that value.
He sounds like a boom bust kind of guy. He sounds like a best ball receiver.
He sounds like that guy who we get too excited for as the wide receiver 2 to 3 on the Chiefs.
Oh my God! If he landed the Chiefs in the second round, he's a number 1 pick in Dynasty.
And he's the next Mecole Hardman long line of guys who can just kind of run fast and have a couple good games. I don't. Oh God, he ain't gonna be drafted by me in the second round.
Fair enough.
Third round.
All right, let's move to the next 4 or 5 here. And this was the closest matchup we have literally ever had on the whole 6 years we've done this. It was so close, in fact, that I had to be the tiebreaker. It was literally 50-50. So as you can see, I put 49.5 and 50.5 because I was the one that broke the tie. It is the 4 seed Ricky Pearsall versus the 5 seed Braylon Allen. I was the tiebreaker, and I took Braylon Allen. So Ricky Pearsall is the one we're going to talk about right now. And the thing I've heard about him a lot, John, is he's an older prospect. And that was kind of what people were knocking him for. Give me your thoughts on Pearsall.
You have to get over the fact, I think he's 23, if my memory serves me. I was just profiling him. But he's 6'1", 193. And I will admit, I was unsure about his athleticism. He was from Arizona State, transferred into Florida. But, man, he went to the combine, guys. And all of his athletic numbers are off the charts. He has speed, agility, burst. He went nuts. So then what I actually did is I went back to the tape and re-watched him. I have him in the top 12. I love Ricky Pearsall in the third round. Now, if he goes early second, he might move up a couple spots. I will say this, though. My limit to him, I think he is clearly a slot receiver only. I don't think he's an X. You might play him at Z a few times, put him in motion, stuff like that. He's an inside dominator. At 6'1", 93, you're looking for the 5'9", 5'10" cornerback where Ricky Pearsall can use his body and his length. And my friends, you want to see some catches? Check out some of his one-handed stuff on film. I mean, some of his film work is unbelievably great. He had a 72% catch rate, and this is what I love. He had a 31% dominator, basically running inside patterns this year for Florida. I really like Ricky Pearsall. He's a steal because I think the ADP now is third round. Him and Leggett are just screaming values at that point in drafts.
Good stuff. Gerson's joining the show here. He says he's just finished watching all your rookie profiles with Matt and John. He says, great stuff. Thanks for the awesome breakdown. If there's a first ballot Hall of Fame on Dynasty prospects, you'd be first ballot, John. So a lot of praise there coming from Gerson.
Thank you very much. That's way too kind, but thank you.
Now, Ryan, I saw you kind of nodding your head a little bit talking about Ricky Pearsall. Are you agreeing with John here?
Yeah, he's the one I got late. I actually just watched him today, and I am so upset that actually I'm kind of happy that I got to wait because he was fun. Like, he was a lot of fun to watch. His hands are stupid. He catches everything. And like, it's not even that. It's like he makes these adjustments while the ball's in the air on all these terribly thrown passes. It's fantastic. When he gets like a real adult NFL quarterback throwing him the ball, it's going to be great.
It'd be fun.
I think he's a dominant slot wide receiver. And
you hoping to get him third round in the dynasty, or you think he sneaks into the second?
I'd reach.
Yeah,
I'd reach late second with him. I'd make the pull. Dude, you're talking about his combine. A 42-inch vertical is absurd for him. Like, you can jump, and you're explosive when you jump like that.
I mean, Ryan, can you imagine if he had a quarterback like Josh Allen with accuracy?
Oof.
I mean,
that'd be an average quarterback.
I know.
I mean, that quarterback play at Florida was so bad. Oh, if you had Josh Allen,
good.
He would eat.
It wasn't good.
I mean, we would never have seen all these spectacular catches where it's one-handed and taking contact and catching through contact, which is great. You wouldn't see that. So bless that terrible quarterback play. But Man, he'll be great when he gets somebody good.
Good stuff. All right, let's move over to the West Conference here. In the 3-6 matchup here is the 3 is Ladd McConkey, and the 6 is Jatavian Sanders. McConkey takes this one 80-20. And we'll talk about Sanders here. And he kind of hurt himself a little bit at the combine, John. He wasn't quite as fast as we had hoped. Where do you have Sanders in your rankings? And talk about what you see him in the NFL doing.
So before the combine, I had Jatavian Sanders number 2. I will say this, because the tight end position is so thorny and so difficult to project. I mean, even the NFL isn't good at the tight end position. Just look at the last 10 years, who they took in the first round and like who's the leading tight end prospect. Sometimes it's like the 5th guy taken. Like they're not very good. So I moved Jatavian Sanders because I'm going to bet on athleticism. I'll tell you I have second, and it's for our viewers. I haven't announced this yet. Well, maybe on one player profiler site. It's Ben Sinnott. Jatavian Sanders, he doesn't block. He's not overly athletic. Those are 2 really bad signs for a tight end. I mean, I know, look, we don't get points for blocking, but if you can't block, you're not going to get on the field at tight end.
Absolutely.
And Jatavian Sanders, I mean, guys, he's a turnstile. He's a turnstile, and they're not going to let you kill the quarterback in the NFL. You're just not going to do that. They're not going to let you do that enough. You'll get on the field in, obvious passing downs and stuff. I'm a little worried about Jatavian Sanders. I think he's overpriced right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say getting on the field is very important. And then also, tight ends are very touchdown dependent. And
yes.
When they get down into the red zone, or especially into the 10 zone, and they need that blocking, you're not going to be on the field. So those end zone targets aren't coming your way because you're not in there. So, yeah, that's a big knock on him for sure.
And, Jeff, I also am worried you need that quickness and burst in the red zone. You need that tight end to get off the line and, really provide a target real quick at the red zone. I don't know if he has the athleticism for that.
Absolutely. Ryan, I know this is one of the guys you haven't got to in your rankings yet, but I'm just curious to your thoughts. Do you have any other tight ends you like besides, obviously the obvious one, Bowers?
I mean, with the tight end position, I'm kind of just waiting and seeing how the draft goes. Because like I said, he was viewed as a second. He kind of didn't, like, for a lot, on most places, like John said, and you need that athleticism, and especially if you can't block. Like, if you're super athletic and can't block, maybe you're a big slot.
Yeah.
But if you're not athletic and you can't block, you're not in the league, and you're not playing.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? I'm waiting to see how this draft goes because, I mean, it's Bowers, then it's the rest of the world.
Yeah, I agree. It's him and everybody else for sure. All right, let's move to the 4-5 matchup in the West. The 4 is Roman Wilson going up against the 5 seed Blake Corum. This was a pretty close matchup. Blake Corum, as the 5 seed, actually gets a little bit of a mini upset here. Takes this matchup 56-44. So let's talk about Roman Wilson a little bit, Ryan. Give me your thoughts on Roman Wilson, who kind of popped off at the Senior Bowl a little bit. He kind of was one of the ones that kind of came out with a little bit of buzz.
I feel like Roman Wilson's just that prototypical deep ball, like field stretching wide receiver. Explosive, elite speed, lacks a little bit of route running, but can beat you deep. And I like him there. I mean, we had the 4.3940. He's a little undersized, so I think bigger corners, he's going to struggle with that. But if he gets loose, he gets loose. I think he's a boom bust player in fantasy. Might see him on returns, but I love the explosiveness for him.
Yeah, he kind of rise up a little bit in some of our ADP after that Senior Bowl.
He's another one I think ADP is going to make him not drafted by me very much.
Yeah.
But
what are your thoughts, John, on Roman Wilson?
He's got a limited ceiling as an NFL player. The coaching staffs and teammates are going to like him more than per se the NFL. I do think there's a little Tyler Lockett in him. The amazing thing about Tyler Lockett, if you saw him at Kansas State and then you've watched him over the years now at Seattle, he is so good deep. One-on-one, Tyler Lockett is a beast on second moves 20 yards down the field. Roman Wilson has that in him. If you haven't watched him a lot on film, he's very good at beating people deep. Also, the one thing they're going to love him, We were talking about the red zone with Jatavian Sanders. Roman Wilson's the exact opposite. He gets open a blink of an eye, and he is one of the toughest SOBs. If you watch enough Michigan, he will take pops from safeties and linebackers. And man, he's taking some massive hits. Coaches and quarterbacks are going to like that. So I could see him really being like the type of receiver, 4 receptions, 55 yards every week. And if you get the touchdown, you're very, very happy. But I don't think and he might get that 60-yard touchdown on a mismatch or blown coverage. But I think you're going to settle in 4 receptions, 55 yards, and if I get a touchdown, I'm happy. He's a flex player. I do like him, and I do think in the NFL with today's game, the slot receivers mean more and more. He's more valuable, and he can't play the Z. He's not an X because Ryan's right. He's a little too small. But you could put him out on the Z if you need to. Like, you have an injury. It's the fourth quarter of a game. So he has a little versatility that a team will like.
Good stuff. All right, we'll move down into the South Division as we round out the first round here. In the first matchup we have is the 3-6. We have the 3 seed. My personal crush, Mr. Keon Coleman, going up against the 6 seed in Bucky Irvin. Coleman takes this matchup 81-19. So Bucky Irvin is another one of those guys, Ryan, that kind of took a hit after the combine. We kind of expected him to be a little more explosive, a little bit faster, and his stock dropped quite drastically after the combine. Give me your thoughts on Bucky Irvin.
I feel like Bucky's combine didn't match up with what he watched on film sometimes.
100%.
Like he plays explosive. He had a nice burst. He had some deep speed, but he lacked that in the combine. Along with having questionable size, it raises. Was it your 200 threshold? You always say, John.
200-pound threshold.
Yeah.
Oh yes, 192.
192. That with not being as explosive, if he ran 192 pounds and ran in that 4.4, I'd be very happy. But it's some questions. It's kind of going to make him slack me. I like the prospect. I like what I watched, but it didn't match up. And maybe it's matchups, maybe it's system, but it's different for the NFL format. I think it's the combination of both. Have to go back and watch after seeing how he produced because it didn't match.
Yeah. John, what are your thoughts here? So Bucky Irvin, like, it was my comments too. Like, what we saw at the combine didn't match what we saw on film. He looked a lot more explosive and faster on film than what I saw at the combine. What are your thoughts on Bucky?
I loved him on film. He was awesome. I loved him throughout the season. He's a better football player than he is athlete. There's no question about that after we saw the times. He falls below my benchmark in BMI at 28.4. I'm looking for 30. Ryan's right. The 200, he's below the 200-pound threshold. But there's explosiveness on tape, 6.1 yards per average, 92 career receptions. He's a complex prospect. You're getting him in the 4th round now. You know what? Based on the film work, I will take him in a rotational system. I don't think he can be the lead back anymore. But if he gets a 45% share of the workload and he's getting the pass catching workload, we know, if you're getting 3 or 4 receptions a week, there's value there. I still like him. And if he's in a wide zone scheme in which you have or if he played with like a Drew Brees. Remember Drew Brees just peppered Alvin Kamara the last 3 years, right? If he's with that type of quarterback in the right scheme, I still believe there's fantasy value. But he's what is the risk of a 4th round running back who looks great on tape?
Yep.
Right? Yep. I mean, that's a good price.
Most of my leagues are three round rookie drafts, so I'll get him undrafted. Yep, I'll get him undrafted. So I'll take an undrafted, chance on him for sure.
I'm getting I'm not saying it's direct comparison, but like how I originally loved the player and then they fell in the draft. I'm getting like flashbacks of how I felt about Justice Hill at first.
Oh,
and that fit. That's where I'm feeling where I'm at with him, where it's people are going to really, really like what they saw, but you have that little bit of a disappointment. He wasn't the athlete he is, but I feel like we're there where it has to be the fit, the right year. which we saw a late breakout, but the system was right from that time. That opportunity was there.
I thought you were going to say Isaiah Spiller, because I've heard that too, where people were really high on Isaiah Spiller. And then
No, I'm never talking about him again. that name will never come out of my mouth.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right, let's round out this first round here with the last 4-5 matchup. We have Mr. Twitter darling, Jalen Wright at the 4 seed going up against the number 5 seed, Audric Estime. Jalen Wright takes this matchup 74-26. Audric Estime, John, talk about him a little bit. And I think the biggest knock on him was that he's not a big pass catcher. He's more of a traditional just first and second down running back. But give me your thoughts on his prospects here.
I knew he didn't have the pass receiving chops. I was never going to draft him based on that. I was going to draft, and I liked him based on his between the tackles running, his power. He has very nice feet, but the athleticism, I'm sorry, it matters. 4.71, my mouth dropped. Like, I was hoping for 4.58. Like, I would have been okay with 4.58 at that.
4.6.
Yeah, I mean, 4.71. I'm just like, oh my God. Remember Jalen Wadenmeyer, the Texas A&M tight end? Like, is he just fallen that far where I still like the tape? He was very good at Notre Dame. But, man, I got to see landing spot now. I have him. I dropped him a lot. He was even a bigger loser in my book than Bucky Irvin, because he's so one-dimensional.
Yeah.
I mean, Bucky can catch and run, but not Audric Estime in my book right now.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Ryan? Were you high on him pre-draft or no? I mean, pre-combine?
No, because, I mean, I kind of expect him to be slow. Like, if you need 4 yards, he's getting you 4 yards. If you need 6, he's getting you 4. Like, he runs more. I think if he lands in a situation with where he's in a split backfield in a high scoring offense, gets his red zone opportunities, a la whoever the short yardage back's been in Detroit, like a similar situation like that, he could be a touchdown monster. But unless he's in that kind of situation, I'm steering real clear.
Yeah,
like he can definitely move the pile, get short yardage, but it's very limited. Like John said, like you're going to be on there to pass block and run for short yardage.
Which is a fantasy, unless he's getting 12 rushing touchdowns. It really limits your upside.
It has to be an amazing touchdown opportunity for me to have any interest in him.
Yes.
All right, let's move into the second round. We'll go back to the Eastern Division here. And this is where we have our 1 and 2 seeds who had the first round bye. 1 seed, Marvin Harrison Jr. takes on the 3 seed, Adonai Mitchell. Yeah. And no surprise here, Marvin Harrison dominates this one 98% to 2%.
Dude, shout out to his mom for voting for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, who voted for him must have been his mom for sure. So let's talk about Adonai Mitchell here in this round here, John, and give me your thoughts. And he's had some good buzz here, you know, and it kind of hung there with the combine as well.
As I'm getting older, I'm more willing to be critical. I think I've learned over 11 years, I'm not a Mitchell guy. And I'll tell you why. I wasn't in love with the film. He never was the alpha target. He never was the number one guy, like the dominator on any team. I guess his year at Georgia, you could argue, but they had Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey. I never once left the Georgia game with Mitchell as the dominant guy. And there is some very, very concerning stats that bother me. My big red flag, and I'm using this in my model more as I go along, it's a very sticky stat for fantasy success. Receiving yards per team pass attempt. My benchmark is 2.5. Mitchell's 1.78. That's not good. That's not good. Also, if my numbers, I remember well, he had 19 touchdowns on 93 receptions. That touchdown rate is that's not replicatable at the NFL level.
That's like Big 12 defenses.
Yeah. Yes, I mean, NFL defenses aren't going to let him to do that. I think he's a fourth receiver. I'm stunned at the press and people saying he's a first-round pick. I'll say this. I will have 0 shares of the Texas wide receiver at the dynasty value or cost he's going out at.
Good stuff. Anything you want to add to that on Adonai Mitchell, Ryan?
I mean, I fairly agree with John on almost all of it. I thought he body catched a little bit too much for me. Like a lot. And that doesn't work. That doesn't work in the NFL. That leads to drops, broken up passes. It's just he's going to beat you deeper. That's it. And that's not happening in the NFL. You're not running past that many people. And if you can't bring more, I'm good.
Yeah. All right. The 2-4 matchup here. We have the 2 seed Jonathan Brooks going up against the 4 seed Marshawn Lloyd. Jonathan Brooks takes this matchup 78-22. And Marshawn Lloyd, and I know is one of the guys you hadn't really got to yet, Ryan. So John, talk about Marshawn Lloyd a little bit. And he kind of had a little bit of a pop at the combine as well. He looked really good.
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed that he got a bad matchup. This is a bad matchup because I actually have Marshawn Lloyd number 6, but the matchup I had Brooks at number 3. So I do agree with the results of it. But there's Marshawn Lloyd. Forget about the injury. I know he had it his freshman year at South Carolina, and it took him a while to get on the field. But since he's been healthy, there's some impressive numbers. First of all, he's 217 with a BMI of 32. Oh, yum, yum. I mean, that is size. He runs a 4.46. That is explosion and speed on him. He's a better pass catcher than given credit for. I think Marshawn Lloyd might be a steal in the real NFL draft. I would be surprised if he's the top one off the board. I would not be surprised if he's the second running back taken in the NFL draft. That's how I think these running backs could end up anyway off the draft board. But I do like Marshawn Lloyd.
Yeah, and Gerson in the chat, he says, wow, that far apart. He was surprised that it was 78-22. And I just think that the Twitterverse, because this is all voting from Twitter, hasn't quite caught up to Marshawn Lloyd yet. I think everybody knows the name Jonathan Brooks, and Marshawn Lloyd has kind of been flying under the radar. Ryan, I know you haven't watched him yet, but anything you wanted to add here?
So I watched a little bit. I get to dive in. I was impressed with his pass catching, and that's going to get you opportunities in the NFL. He looked explosive. I thought he definitely missed some plays from what I watched. You'd see better opportunities, and maybe he should have broke longer runs in certain situations. But I like the flashes I saw, and like John said, if you put a couple things together in the right system, he could be a good running back in this year. Especially when you have question marks everywhere. With everybody in this draft class, the running back position I've seen has little nicks here and there of things that go wrong. And I can definitely envision a world from just flashes. You can see a starting caliber or at least a rotational back because nobody's an every down back anyways anymore.
Yeah, 100%. All right, we'll move down into the North Division here, and we got the 1-3 matchup, the 1 seed being Brock Bowers. The 3 seed is Trey Benson. Brock Bowers takes this matchup 84-16. So Trey Benson, who kind of after the combine has been sort of the consensus top running back, but as you both have already kind of talked about here, it's all landing spot dependent. Whatever running back the NFL loves, it's the ones that we're going to love. It's going to be so fluctuant because it's very flat this year. But John, talk about Trey Benson a little bit.
The athleticism does not match the tape study. I get that he's a size speed specimen at 216, 439. Look, there's no question about the athletic skills. I watched a ton of Trey Benson. I had him in my top 2 prospects over the summer. Florida State was undefeated. I had him on 3 college fantasy football teams. I probably watched him this year 8 times live, and I'll say this. Never once did I watch a Florida State game and say, Troy Benson's the best player on the field. Never once.
That's Keon Coleman was there, but no.
Well, that's another. But you would think.
I watched every Florida State game this year. I agree.
Yeah, you would think for a running back on an undefeated team who's uber athletic, he would pop, right? That you would say, oh my God, 170 yards rushing, right? Like Ollie Gordon, Amari and Hampton, Blake Corum, Jonathan Brooks. He never did that. So I have a hard time reconciling the film study with the athleticism. I'm lower on him than most, but I will not be surprised if an NFL team cannot control themselves with that size speed ratio.
Yeah. Now, Ryan, I left you for last on this one because you are the Florida State guy.
I am a Florida State guy. So we can show how little I've been on Twitter lately. I didn't realize he was the consensus number one now, like for the running back position. And I think the upside's there, but like Jonathan, his vision is not that great. Like, if that hole's not where he's supposed to be running, he's still hitting it. The same place. Like he's going where he's supposed to and nowhere else.
I thought, this is just me, I thought he has poor vision and he hit a lot of rumps. He hit a lot of rumps in his offensive lineman. Like,
I mean, he pushed him forward. Like, he's very strong. He runs very hard. If you get him in open field, he's a problem.
Yeah.
I think
hitting rumps in football is not a good thing.
No.
Not a good thing.
In the speed, it's not that sudden. It's more he gets to it quick, but it's after the first few steps. And it's not at like right at the line of scrimmage. Like his first 10-yard split's not great, even though he has a great 40.
Yeah,
it's not very good.
I thought he's a solid pass catcher, which is good. He caught a decent amount of balls at Florida State, and when you're that big and can do that, it's solid. But he definitely needs to work. If he doesn't get his vision, I feel like that's the number one death of all running backs in the NFL. No matter where you're drafted, bad vision kills you, man.
Kills you. Yep, 100%.
How many good backs have we seen? We thought great coming out. You see them running the rumps, like John said? No.
It's over. All right, let's do the 2-5 matchup in the North Division. The 2 seed was Xavier Worthy going up against the 5 seed Braylon Allen. Xavier Worthy takes this matchup 72. Well, those numbers don't match up. It must be 75 to 25. So we'll talk about Braylon Allen here. Ryan, give me your thoughts on Braylon Allen. He was I think my number one running back pre-combine. I lowered him a bit after the combine because he had an awful gauntlet.
So one of the things I can notice with this class is a lot of like one-dimensional backs. And I kind of felt like Braylon Allen's kind of in that short yardage back where we've seen Audrey Gasner, except for not like a terrible athlete. But I think he can move the pie. I think he's a good enough runner. I don't see I don't see him as every down back in the league. I can see him in a split backfield. And if you're playing with a lead, feed him the ball. I don't see the explosiveness that you really want to see. And I thought he fumbled a lot for being a big short yardage back.
Yeah.
And if you're in traffic and you're taking contact and you're fumbling in college, you're definitely fumbling in the NFL.
Yeah. 100%.
And that was a really big red flag for me. It really rubs me the wrong way with ball control.
Yeah, so there's one thing, John, that we always say when we prospect these guys is don't count it twice, right? Like we kind of knew Braylon Allen wasn't a pass catcher going into the combine, but then he was absolutely terrible in that. I think he dropped 4 of those passes.
He looked bad.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I counted it twice because it was that bad. What are your thoughts on Braylon Allen?
I'm still upset we don't really have true athleticism on him. That's a problem right now. I can't ignore it. I do like the fact that he's incredibly young at 20 years old. He dominated Big Ten football at 17. I do think he has skills. I think he has good feet for a big man, and I think he's pretty good in traffic. He doesn't have a ton of wiggle. I don't know if he has the best vision. I think it's average. Pass catching is a concern. But until we need something like right now, would I be surprised if he pulled the Audric Estime on us and ran like a 4.7? No. Why is he hiding?
Yeah.
Like if he was going to go
Probably
out there and
reason.
Yeah, I mean, if he was going to run a 4.55 or a 4.53, I think he would show it to us by now. But because at his size adjusted, a 4.54 is going to be all right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Why is he hiding? I'm willing to drop him down more if we don't get some skills. Now, draft capital, I hate saying it. But, like, if he falls, that means the NFL is very worried, just like we are.
Yep, agreed. All right, we'll move over to the Western Division here. And the 1 seed in that division was Mr. Malik Neighbors going up against the 3 seed Ladd McConkey. And no surprise here, Neighbors takes this one 93-7. So Ladd McConkey is a guy that I didn't really have on my radar, but suddenly he's popping up kind of everywhere, and he was way more athletic than even I expected him to be.
He pulled a bad draw here. Getting Neighbors.
He did pull a
he needs to have made it farther in this.
Yeah, Ladd McConkey for sure. So Ryan, we'll go ahead and let you go first. Here we lost John here for a second, but go ahead and give us your thoughts on McConkey.
I love McConkey. Oh, you're good. Like he gets open. He puts DBs in blenders. He is a high value. I think he's a high volume slot receiver in the league. Catches everything. Runs after the catch. Can do some returns. I think McConkey's the real deal. Super athletic at the position. I like him more than most of the wide receivers we've talked about so far.
Yeah, McConkey, like I said, he's one that's definitely surprised me. He popped off. He was way more athletic than I expected.
For fantasy, there's a chance he ends up close to my top 5, if not in it.
Wow.
Because I think in PPR, because I think he can get that kind of volume.
Good stuff. John, what are your thoughts here on McConkey?
I like McConkey. I think the rocket ship is heading too quickly. I think he's going to be drafted too early. He's never really been healthy for a full season. He's never really been the alpha male. And what I mean by that, I'm talking about the target hog, the Drake London. We're going to talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. later, like the Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guy in college who just got double-digit peppered, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, where you're just like, holy crap, this guy can handle 11 catches or 11 targets 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row. That many players who never did that in college, then all of a sudden do it as a professional. I think people are really ahead of the rocket ship, like, oh, he's going to go out there and be a 9-target wide receiver. No, McConkey's an efficiency monster, a matchup nightmare. You need a creative coach, puts him in motion, find someone who's less athletic than him, or find someone who's smaller than him. Let him beat him. He's like Roman Wilson in the middle of the field. McConkey's unfreaking believable. You watch the Georgia tape, he takes some hits, and you're like, oh my God, the guy got up from that hit. So there is huge value there. Ideally, he's a complement to an alpha male. That's what he is. But people are projecting and drafting him like he's this super stud. And he's a very good player. I don't think he's even T. Higgins good. Like, he's not going to be a T. Higgins type of receiver. I think he's a 900-yard guy.
I think he's
which is
safe
fine.
He's a safe floor play.
Yeah.
He's
very safe floor play.
I move him. I like somebody who's safe. I like somebody who's going to get targets and have a role in the NFL. And there's not that many questions.
But Ryan, I think people are drafting him as the ceiling of his right. Isn't he basically a first-round dynasty pick right
on
now?
The turn? He's right
no,
there.
A hard pass on. Yeah, hard pass on him there. I love the prospect, but
yes, that's what I mean.
We're talking second round all day, but first round, no.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I can't take him at number 11 in a dynasty.
No, I feel like my expressing my love for him was too much because I thought his ADP was a little bit lower than it was.
Yeah, no, he's definitely at that 12, 2, 1, 2, 2, like right around there on that turn. So yeah, let's move to the next matchup here. We got a 2-5 matchup in the West with the number 2 seed Troy Franklin going up against the 5 seed Blake Corum. And Franklin takes this one in a 66-34 score. So let's talk about Blake Corum a little bit, John. He seems to be very polarizing. It's Blake Corum is one of those guys that you either have him at your top RB or he's your 5th or 6th RB, it seems to be. What are your thoughts on Blake Corum? Where do you fall?
Well, I'm guilty. I have him at the top RB. And here's why. In my book, he has the highest floor of a running back. He hit the 200-pound threshold at 205. His BMI is spectacular at 31.2. He catches the ball. He's quick. He's got great feet in traffic. I used to say last summer, I used to say he was excellent in a phone booth. You can run him in between the tackles with the fullback, and he'll find the smallest of creases. I do believe that there are goal line backs. I've watched enough football. There's some guys, like Ryan said, I don't think Troy Benson's a good goal line back. He can't find a crease. Blake Corum is going to find the crease. So I think he has a role in the NFL. I think he's a really high floor, like 900 yards rushing, 45 receptions, 8 to 11 touchdowns. I think coaches like players like Blake Corum.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've heard about him is he has a nose, to find those little creases in the defense.
Dude. They love that. I mean, Harbaugh loves getting people jammed together. He wants 4 defenders, 4 offensive play, and Corum just pops out of it.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on Corum?
I like Corum a lot. I think I think his ceiling's low end RB1. I don't think he's ever gonna be a superstar, but I think he, like John said, he can get high touchdown volume, 900 yards, puts you in that RB1 range, completely week in, weekend starter. I think he'll definitely be paired with somebody. I think he runs great north-south. I thought one thing I would say, I think he dances a little bit much for his size when he can just put it and go for how strong he plays.
Fair enough.
But yeah, I like the prospect. I think he's good. It's weird because last year, before he declared, and I was doing last year's class, I loved him more the year before than this year, even though I think he's really good.
Yeah.
Ryan, he played better the year before. I admit that. But he was also a little injured this year. They were careful with him early in the year.
So the year before it was crazy because I watched him like, this guy's this guy's a star. But I'm like, he's a really good football player. And anyone who has an RB1, I have no issue with because I think I can see the world where he's safe and just that guy and gets 15, 20 touches on the team.
Yeah, agreed. All right, we moved out into the South Division here, and we got the 1-3 matchup. One seed is Roma Dunze going up against, I mentioned before, my draft crush, Mr. Keon Coleman. Dunze takes this one in a landslide, 93-7. Ryan, I'm going to go to you first because you're probably one of the other people that actually like Keon Coleman besides myself. I've taken a lot of heat from my love of Keon Coleman, and I just want to hear you talk good about him before John tears him down.
I'm going to start with the bad on him just because I feel like let's get it out of the way. I think he drops the ball way too much. He has concentration issues. It is all concentration drops. Like it's stupid drops that he should make. He'll make absurd, spectacular catches in traffic, but easy balls he just drops. I mean, as a Florida State fan, I swore at this man almost as much as his teammate and Johnny Wilson. I think he lacks some separation downfield. He's going to beat a lot of people over top. His wingspan's absurd. He can jump out of the gym, and he has that size. So you have that. He plays very strong. I think he's really good after the catch, and they use him on punt returns at that size. Is a good example of how good of a runner he is. If he can clean up, his ceiling is as high as anybody outside of the top 2 for me, but his floor is scary. Like it's a ceiling floor play for him. It's betting on upside with Keon Coleman a lot because of some of those issues. But I love the prospect. I love the skill set. It's just he needs to put it together for me.
Yeah, John, what are your thoughts on Coleman?
His hands are terrible. That's my first thought. And my partner, Matt Hicks, always says, I like receivers who catch the ball. So that is very concerning to me when I watch Keon Coleman. I get the projection. If you are banking on Keon Coleman, what you are saying is that we believe that he is so gifted that he's going to take a massive leap forward as an NFL prospect. I have my questions about that that historically does not happen very often. You don't see players just become so much better at the pro level than they were in college. I saw a nice receiver in college. Ryan and I already talked about, we watched a lot of Florida. I know I watched more. Ryan's a fan of Florida State. I was more disappointed in Keon Coleman than I ever was impressed because he got a lot of press. I mean, Keon Coleman is discussed all the time. And I'll say this is what really scares me. Because I've heard people say, oh, he dominated LSU. Time out. LSU was one of the worst defenses they've had in the 50 years of their program. The LSU defense was atrocious, dudes. They were giving up 40 points a game.
It was the first game of the season.
If you look, they were so bad. Keon Coleman got 1/5 of his overall production came against a bottom 20 secondary. If you take out that game against LSU, his numbers are beyond awful. Like, he's not even being discussed. And I'm like, did it against crappy. I don't see it.
Fair enough. I won't use this platform to defend Keon Coleman because I just voted.
Wait, John. Where do you have him ranked for your receiver?
Number 8.
Okay.
Number 8. Okay. I got it.
He's
5.
like top. I would think he's top 4 or 5 for most people. I have my concerns.
Yeah, I have him at 5. I had him at 3 before pre-combine. I didn't see what everybody else saw in Adunze until I watched him at the combine. And like, okay,
no, Adunze's good.
I see it now. I see it. So he did go behind. He went behind Adunze, and I believe I got Brian Thomas Jr. ahead of him now too. So he's my receiver 5. All right, let's round out round 2 here. Speaking of Brian Thomas Jr., he was the 2 seed in this division, going up against the 4-seeded Jalen Wright. BTJ takes this 83-17. And Jalen Wright is a guy that I did not have on my radar at all. And then suddenly the Twitterverse started talking, and I heard his name more places than I care to mention. So, John, give me your thoughts on Jalen Wright here and his sort of he probably wasn't sneaky to you, but he was sneaky to some of us.
Well, I started to look at him around mid-October because he started playing a lot. So I will say last summer, he was on no one's radar. If you don't know, Tennessee runs a 3-back running back by committee. They had a young man named Dylan Sampson. They had a guy, oh my God, who was the other back? Oh, I can't remember the other guy who scored, or Jabari Small. And Jabari Small looked like the better of the 2 players last summer. But as the year progressed, Jalen Wright just kept posting these incredibly efficient numbers. I think he averaged 7.1 yards per carry this year. He averaged 6.2 yards per carry in his career. What really blew my mind when the season ended, he had 35 runs of over 10 plus yards, and he only had like 160 carries. That's ridiculous. Then his average yards after contact per attempt, he's the second best in the class, averaging 4.35 yards after contact. And then I saw he's big. I did not think he was 210. He's 5'11", 210. Oh my God. Light bulbs go off. That's like the perfect with speed. And he runs a 4.38. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm in. We just have to see if the NFL thinks I have him number 2 because the ceiling is unbelievable if he's in the right system.
Yeah, I think I have him at number 2 as well. I raised him up from being basically unranked when I first started my rankings to the number 2 running back. So good stuff. Anything you want to mention on Jalen Wright, Ryan?
He's super explosive, and he's like he is today's NFL's kind of running back.
Yes.
Like,
yep.
You're not going to see him in those short yardage situations like we've talked about I feel like every running back so far tonight. But man, get that dude the ball. And he doesn't need 20 touches a game. Like, keep him in that 12 to 15. in the right offense, and he'll be beautiful in fantasy.
Good stuff. All right, we're moving to the round. It's the Elite Eight now. We're up to, and no surprises, all the 1s and 2 seeds did advance. So we'll go back to the East Division. And to speed things up a little bit, I'm just going to flip flop between these players. So Ryan, you'll do one, John, you'll do one. That way we can get through them a little faster. Because most of these guys, most of our audience already knows, but I wanted to get John's thoughts on some of these. So the first matchup we have here in the East is the 1 seed Marvin Harrison Jr. going up against the 2 seed Jonathan Brooks. Marvin Harrison takes this one in a landslide, 92-8. John, I want your thoughts here on Mr. Jonathan Brooks.
Oh, man. If Jonathan Brooks gets the clearance from the NFL, and what I mean by that, they're doing their medical research. If you don't know, he had an ACL problem late in the season for the Longhorns. He's on a timetable that says he should be back by about mid-training camp. We don't have access to the medical reports. If the NFL tells us that he is a second round, maybe a third, but let's say a second round, we have to read between the lines and say the medical reports are good. I absolutely love the film. He is, I say one word, he's just smooth, man. He looks effortless when he runs. I mean, he's got yards after contact. He's got speed. He can find the open field. He's got good vision. I'm all in. We just have to know. From what I've seen, the medical reports are good, but we won't know until he gets drafted. Now, I hear buzz that Dallas likes him. If Dallas gets him, he's going to be a top 6 or maybe top 8 dynasty pick.
Yeah, he'll be in that first round for sure.
He will.
I mean, they don't have a back, so he's definitely moving up.
He's definitely good. Yes.
They could draft Ryan to be the running back, and he would probably be a first round.
Ooh, they wouldn't like my me pushing the pile. I'm only 5'7",
All right, Ryan, you get the North Division here. It was the 1 seed Brock Bowers going up against the 2 seed Xavier Worthy. Brock Bowers takes this one easily as a 91-9. Xavier Worthy, of course, ran the fastest time in combine history, and somehow people are hating on him because of it. He was almost too fast. Give me your thoughts on Xavier Worthy.
Listen, the things to be upset about is not the speed. It's the fact he's 165 pounds.
I agree.
You're going to get bullied. You're going to get bullied by defensive backs. They get their hands on. You're going to get bullied by linebackers, safeties. They get your hands on you. You're in deep shit. He needs, I feel like it's either deep balls or manufactured touches for him. I think it's very limited. I love him as an NFL player. I think he's a weapon in the NFL. Fantasy-wise, it's boom or bust. It's best ball or bust. Like, I'm only taking him there because I think it's scary. Like, 165 receivers don't last.
Yeah.
And they don't have they're not going to get high volume to be fantasy relevant. I like the idea of them, but I'm not there.
I'm glad you said it, Ryan, because you always blame me for being the sizest here, and you're talking about his size. So
I was that size in high school, and I'm a small. Stop it. That's skinny, dude. You're a rail.
Fair enough. Anything you want to add real quick, John, to Xavier Worthy?
I'm more concerned about his size and speed. I do like him, but I think the size limits his upside. And I think he's a better NFL wide receiver because of the value of attacking the defense vertically than he is a fantasy wide receiver. Yeah. I just don't see him as a 150 target guy. Yeah. He can't do what DeAndre Hopkins does. And DeAndre Hopkins done it for so many years. His body just won't hold up to that punishment.
Agreed. All right, we'll go to the West Division here, and this one is the 1 seed Malik Neighbors versus the 2 seed Troy Franklin. And I left this one particularly for John because I want to get John's thoughts on Troy Franklin because I'm personally not a fan, but I want to hear what John has to say about Mr. Troy Franklin.
So I might be one of the few. There's some of us. I'm still a Troy Franklin stan. I'm still got hope. He did come back to his pro day. He measured 184. We also got reports. I forgot what reporter said it. Oh, it was a draft guy, Tony something maybe. The reports were he was sick in Indianapolis. So that contributed to his poor gauntlet. But I will say this. You might not be impressed with the gauntlet at the combine, but I can't take away 2 years of film and production and speed. I mean, I loved his film at Oregon. I think he's a Garrett Wilson light. I don't think he's as good as Garrett Wilson, but I think he's very good. I think he's a really good. I haven't been number 5. Don't let him fall too deep. I've noticed so far I've done in the last 3 drafts, I've gotten Franklin between 2-1 and 2-6 behind guys like Roman Wilson, Ladd McConkey, Keon Coleman. I'm very happy with Troy Franklin there. I think that's a steal.
Yeah, so I've seen Troy Franklin being drafted ahead of Keon Coleman, into that receiver 4 range. I have met receiver 6. I don't necessarily hate him. I just see him as the exact opposite of Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman is a little bit slower guy, but physical, where Franklin is a speed guy, but not physical. So they're kind of opposites in that sense. But I would personally take Keon Coleman over Troy Franklin. So, but I agree with your assessment there. All right, let's do the South Division. Ryan, you have the 1-2 seed. The 1 seed is Mr. Rome Odunze going up against Brian Thomas Jr. Odunze takes this matchup in a 96-4 landslide. So talk about Brian Thomas Jr. And he had the second fastest speed, and no one seems to be talking about it as his size.
I mean, he's a size speed freak. Like a 4.33 6 at 6.32 9 is absurd. Huge vertical at 38.5. Like, he's an athletic monster. I think he wins fantastic downfield. What was the stat? He scored a touchdown like on every 4 catches or something like that.
That's insane.
Like, he's an elite deep player. I know it's 209, but I feel like he needs to bulk up and get stronger. I think he kind of gets bullied by the bigger DBs. I think he struggles to get off the line a little bit and kind of catching through contact and has some drop issues. But man, that another one that's just mouth-watering talent. And it's something to bet on.
Yeah, I love it. All right, we are down to the final 4. Going to the left side of the screen here, we got Marvin Harrison Jr. as a 1 seed going up against the 1 seed Brock Bowers. Marvin Harrison Jr. dominates this particular matchup 95-5. John, give me your thoughts on Brock Bowers, who is easily the tight end 1 in this class.
Yeah, he's easily the tight end 1. We were talking about the tight end position and Jatavian Sanders earlier in the show. And one of our viewers posted that I don't like any of the tight ends. And I'm starting to think I'm not going to take a tight end until the 4th or 5th round. I just don't think there's any value in any of these. I think Theo Johnson, Cade Stover, Jatavian Sanders, Ben Sinnott. Tell me with conviction which one of those are going to be by far the stud NFL tight end. But Bowers is special. I don't have him. I don't grade him as highly as Kyle Pitts. That's just me. I get that there are some people who like him above Kyle Pitts. I think Kyle Pitts has still got ceiling now that we got Arthur Smith out of there and maybe we get a better quarterback. But it's a close second. I like Bowers a ton. He's a little undersized at 240. That's going to, but so is Kyle Pitts. They're kind of that wide tight end, the old school H-back. They're not in line. They're not Gronk. They're not Kelsey Big. They're not TJ Hawkinson, but they can scramble. One thing I'll say about Bowers, despite the size, you play at Georgia, he can block. Like that's just the demand of the Georgia program. Right. So he can block. So he has what I goal line value. You will play block Bowers on the goal line because he gives you the run, pass, catch option that teams want. So I like him. He's a top 7 dynasty pick. Tight end premium, you could argue top 5, maybe, but I still don't think he's as good as Kyle Pitts as a prospect.
As a prospect, fair enough.
And the fact you're comparing him to who's the top tight end prospect in 10 years?
Yes.
With Kyle Pitts.
Yeah, I mean, that would be yes. I mean, but here's what's funny, Ryan.
It's elite grouping.
Look at the number 1 tight ends picked. Eric Ebron. There's not very pretty. So the thing is let's say Zach Ertz, right? I think he was the 3rd or 4th tight end in that draft. So I can't say that Zach Ertz was a better prospect right?
Right.
Now, his career turned out better so far, right?
Yeah.
He's had a fabulous career, but he wasn't that prospect that these two players. So I try not to confuse prospect with results of the career.
Correct.
Those are two different things.
And sometimes we forget that we're playing fantasy football. Like NFL
Yes.
teams look at tight ends that can do a lot, beyond just catching passes, which is what we want them to do.
Yes.
But some guys go up the board because they can do other things like block.
I think Pat Fryermuth is the perfect example. He's a great NFL tight end with some fantasy chops, but he'll never be 1,100 yards. The Pittsburgh system, his pass blocking ability, but he's a great NFL tight end.
100% agree. All right, Ryan, you have the right side of the screen there. You got the 1 seed Malik Neighbors going up against the 1 seed Rome Odunze. Malik Neighbors takes this one 76-24. So talk about Mr. Rome Odunze.
Rome Odunze is, I hate to use the term possession receiver because I feel that undersells what he is, but he is so trustworthy, and you throw the ball in his area, it's his. He's catching everything. It's a black hole going to his hands. He's gonna beat you there. It's hard to say he's the best hands in the draft, but I'm kind of feel that way. I think he's smooth. What do you say, John?
I said he might. It's close.
It's close.
Malik Neighbors is pretty nasty too.
It's such good receiving class.
It is such a good receiving class.
I think he plays so strong. I think he has really good body awareness, like for working, for meeting guys up close. He always seems to know where the sideline is. He's going to be a really good NFL receiver. I think if he was in a different class, we'd be viewing him as the top guy instead of the wide receiver 3. But he's a damn good football player right here. And if you miss out on Neighbors and Harrison,
It's a good consolation prize.
You're going to be a little upset, but you know what? Bronze is still a medal.
Yeah.
Ryan, I'll say 2 things. It is in with the range of outcomes that Odunze has a better career than either of those two. Might only be a 5 or 10% chance, but there is a possibility.
Agreed.
And 2, he would be the number 1 wide receiver in last year's class.
Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah.
Without question. He's better than JSN. He's better than Jordan Addison. All of those as a prospect. There's no question. I mean, I love Odunze. He just ended up in the – I mean, what a weird year to come out when we got 3 receivers in the top 10. I mean, that's just amazing.
It is, absolutely. Speaking of the receivers in the top there, of course, they both advance. We got Marvin Harrison matching up against Malik Neighbors. And for a while today, because the poll ended about an hour before the show, there was a time this morning that Malik Neighbors was actually outscoring Marvin Harrison. But the Marvin Harrison truthers came up, and eventually he won this one 70-30. So we'll all talk about these two guys, but of course the loser of this matchup goes first. Malik Neighbors. John, talk about him a little bit.
He's my number 1 guy in the draft. I think Malik Neighbors is beyond a special. It took me, by mid-October, I started contemplating that Neighbors is better than Harrison. And I said to myself, am I crazy? But I was watching so much LSU football because Jaden Daniels, I actually won a lot on a Heisman bet. He was my number 1 Heisman bet. If you don't believe me, it was on the FSGA fantasy on the prop bet show.
Nice.
And I put my money down on Jaden Daniels, and that won me a lot of money for I think I got 2,000 to 1 odds at the time because it was last August. So I loved him. So I'm studying Jaden Daniels, and by about mid-October, I'm like, this guy Malik Neighbors, man, I'm like, he might be better than Marvin Harrison. And I was like, am I just crazy? I'm like, I need more time. By December 1st, I had moved Neighbors ahead of Harrison. He's more versatile. I think he's got better hands, which might sound crazy, but I do think he does. I think he plays at a faster speed. I think he processes on the move like ridiculous. His ability to process angles and defenders and what is happening around him is simply unbelievable. You can play him in the inside. You can play him on the outside. I love that. And when I plugged him in my model, I was shocked. He beats Marvin Harrison in almost every statistical category. I mentioned it earlier today. Receiving yards per team pass attempt. My benchmark is 2.5. So just understand that 2.5 is like you got a really good chance in the NFL. Marvin Harrison has 3.22, which is unbelievable. Guess what Malik Neighbors is? 4.2.
Wow.
No one in the last 3 years is close to Malik Neighbors. No one. And let me just say this. Malik Neighbors is playing in the SEC. Guys, he's playing against a top-level competition. I know you don't scout uniforms. I get it. But they've been pretty damn good down there at LSU.
Yeah.
I mean, when I go back to Jarvis Landry, Odell Beckham, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, I mean, they just ooze talent. I think he might be as good of a prospect as Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase.
Wow.
I mean, he's unbelievable. So I have him at number 1.
So it makes sense now. So when I put the poll out this morning, the very first person to like it and retweet it was John. So that's why the Malik Neighbors was winning early on, because all of John's followers were voting for him. So it all makes sense now. All right, Ryan, talk about Neighbors a little bit.
I didn't have followed after John. John just got me really excited about him. Even more so.
He's so good, dude.
He puts people in a blender.
He does.
Like, what he does to defensive backs should be illegal. Like,
those people got to pay their food bills. They got to feed their children too.
There's not a way that he doesn't win.
He wins. Like, he beats you every way, dude.
He wins. He can win with route running. He can win above the rim. He can win running after the catch. He can find holes in the zone. He's unreal. Like, I have Harrison ahead of him because Harrison was just such a freak, but it's close. Like, it's 1A, 1B. It's not 1-2 for me. It's 1A, 1B. They're good. I think the gap between those two is minuscule because he is unbelievable.
I think the one thing people don't discuss enough about Neighbors, I think his football IQ and acumen as a pass catcher, route runner, and then open space. You're right. He puts him in a blender. He beats you mentally. Like, he will slow down, and I'm just talking a millisecond. And that dude, he speeds up, and you're just like, what the hell happened? Like it's just awesome, man.
Good stuff. All right, let's move to the winner of our rookie bracket this year. Really no surprise. I thought Neighbors might give him a little bit closer run. But Marvin Harrison Jr., we just talked a little bit about him. But Ryan, why don't you go first here, talk about Marvin Harrison Jr.
I mean, he's not only a complete package. He's a good route runner. He's unbelievably fast, big, strong. His footwork, to stay in bounds, and like just awareness of where he is on the field, is fantastic. Like, as a pure outside receiver, he's unbelievable. It's as safe as a pick as you get. Him and Nate, like, I don't know what you can say about him other than he's done it all. He was the best wide receiver on a team with three other first rounders. And it was easily the best. And Garrett Wilson was a top 10 pick last year. And he was better. Like, he's fantastic. I agree with John. Like, you want Neighbors over him, fine. You want him over Neighbors, fine. Even in the comments, like Brian said, it's minuscule.
Yeah.
It is. They're unbelievable. If whoever lands in a better spot with a better quarterback is probably going to be my choice out of the two.
Yeah, I was just going to say, me and Ryan talked about this a couple shows ago. At that time, Neighbors hadn't gained quite as much steam. And the question was posed, could you trade Marvin Harrison Jr., the 101, essentially, move down to get Neighbors? Would you do it? And Ryan's like, absolutely, because the difference is not that great. And you could get, get Neighbors plus, for Marvin Harrison Jr. So John, I'll give you a chance to talk about Harrison Jr. a little bit, because I know obviously he's still, high up in your rankings. Even you have neighbors above him, but give us your thoughts on Harrison Jr.
It's hard for me because don't get me wrong. I absolutely love Marvin Harrison Jr. I love him. He's great player. 6'3", 205. But he is your classic X. He is the master of the boundary. He's so good outside the hash marks. His toes are amazing. His hand-eye coordination is great. But do I picture Marvin Harris? And maybe, hey, some of it's not on film, so you never know, right? But do I see the diversity of route runs and the explosion in the open field that I do at Neighbors? I do not. Now, if you told me that, okay, we're going to line Malik Neighbors out on the X, and he's going to stay on the X for 90% of his route running and run outside the boundary 9% of the time, I'd be like, okay, that's a problem. You can literally put Marvin Harrison Jr. on the X 90% like AJ Green. I mean, I do think he's AJ Green. That's what I think he is. He's just so good outside of the hash marks. And you almost can't leave him one-on-one outside the hash marks. You got to have a linebacker cheat or a safety cheat on him. But could you put him in the slot or the middle of the field and have him to be as dominant as Neighbors? I don't think you can. But that's just the difference. Hey, he's awesome. He's a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. You're looking at a 1,400 yard receiver 3, 4, 5 years in a row with the right quarterback. I mean, let's say he's DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green. I'll take that all day long.
I mean, yeah. So
my personal thing is I really think Malik Neighbors is Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. I mean, they're all, I can't lose on any of those guys. That's all. That's the only difference.
This class is fun. This wide receiver class is so fun.
Yes.
Yeah, it's what we could have gotten if we had the Jamar Chase and Jefferson in the same class come out.
Yes.
Yep.
But Chase would have gone before Jefferson at that point.
Yeah, I think you're right.
We're higher on Chase and Jefferson.
Yep, agreed.
Jefferson was too low in that. I had him at number 3. People were way too low on Jefferson coming out.
I was happy with that because I got him at the 109 on my rookie mock, and I've lived with him ever since.
Dude, that's crazy thinking back how people thought of Justin Jefferson.
Yep, he was.
If they were honest, there's people who are not being honest, but that's okay.
People want to say that they've always been high on him. I had him as my top receiver. Yeah, no, you didn't.
No, you didn't.
All right, well, that wraps up the rookie brackets. I knew we would be running a little bit long because it's always hard to fit in 24 guys here, but this next segment, of course, is almost built for John. It is, of course, the Forgotten Fantasy Player. We have to get John to do this for us, so let's go ahead and hit the drop.
Get ready for GoingFor2.com's Forgotten Fantasy Player of the Week.
Hopefully John doesn't take us back to the 70s like he did last time.
I didn't go that far back. So I will say it's around hit number 1. I joked with Jeff online before. I go, let's see if they can get it in 3 hints. This one doesn't count. It's around the turn of the century. So he played in the mid-90s to the 2000, mid-2000s.
I was alive.
Right in my wheelhouse. All right,
right in the wheelhouse. First, he had 6,000-yard seasons under his belt and 3 times had over 1,500 yards.
We talking rushing or receiving?
Yeah, rushing. I'm sorry.
Oh,
running
rushing,
back.
okay.
I didn't say that.
Fred Taylor.
Nope.
6 straight. So say that one more time.
No,
6 straight.
6,000 yards. Not necessarily straight.
Gotcha. Okay.
6,000 yards in his career.
And how many did he have over 1,500?
3.
3.
Dude, he'd be the number 1 pick in every fantasy draft now. It's ridiculous.
Wow, that's an impressive.
Okay, let me give you 2. This stat blows my mind away. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 seasons, over 66 receptions.
Holy
Priest Holmes.
No, that I thought, but that's too easy.
That is
That's too easy.
So this is a receiving monster.
Receiving monster with running back chops.
You said not late 90s.
Late 90s, early 2000s.
Yep, just think about the turn of the decade.
All right, give us the hint number 3.
He just missed playing and winning the Super Bowl.
Tiki Barber?
That's it.
Oh.
Tiki Barber's numbers are off the freaking charts, gentlemen. Look at this now. He's 27. This is his 6th year in the league. 1,387 yards, 1,216 yards, 1,518, 1,860, 1,662.
Wow.
Oh my God, dudes. He is Christian McCaffrey statistically. Then look at these pass catching numbers. 66, 70, 72, 69,
Wow.
69. He finished 50, 52, 52, 54, and 58 receptions. He had 2 seasons over 2,000 yards.
Wow.
Dudes, if anyone did what Tiki Barber did in today's game,
They're the 101.
dude, 101. The problem is LaDainian Tomlinson, Priest Holmes, Sean Alexander, and I'm trying. I get, and maybe I'm on green, but like, he was unbelievable, and he was 31 years old when he retired.
Yeah, you're right. His famously kind of gave up on his player and his teammates, right? That's why he retired early, and then they won the Super Bowl right after.
And they won the Super Bowl.
Yep.
But every time I look at him, I'm like, oh my God, he is so good. Look at these long runs he had. 95-yard touchdown run at 30, 72-yard run at 29, 70-yard run at 27. We are saying that running backs now at 27 are toast. This man didn't even start his career until he was 27.
Wow, that is impressive.
He had 2,100 scrimmage yards in his last year.
Yeah, and then he retired. That's crazy. Yeah.
My friends, he has over 10,000 career rushing yards, 15,000 yards from scrimmage.
Wow.
And no one talks about him.
That's a great
literally
pull.
No one talks about him.
Well, but they're talking about him now because of the whole Saquon Barkley beef or whatever.
Yes.
But yeah, they don't talk about his career. It's all about his post-career that they talk about more so. But he was awesome.
Yeah.
Like, he literally was Christian McCaffrey.
Yep.
And people love Christian McCaffrey. Now, in this generation, McCaffrey's special. But guys,
because it doesn't happen as often. Back then, everybody touched the ball 400 times.
Oh my God, Tiki Barber was like a 2nd-round pick in fantasy drafts.
Yep, I remember those times.
Imagine getting a back with 2,000 yards in the 2nd round nowadays.
That would not happen for sure. All right, that wraps the podcast up. John, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man. We love to do this show with you every year. Like I said, this is the 6th year in a row we've done this. We really appreciate you finding time to jump on with us. Go ahead and give us your Twitter handle one more time. Talk about player profile or anything else you want to plug.
Thank you, my friends. It's been a pleasure. You know, I love this show every year. You can find all my written profiles on playerprofiler.com. Just go to the fantasy section because I do rate players in general on fantasy upside. So you will notice I like pass catchers more than others, but yes, you can find it all there. And then go to the YouTube channel, Rookie Big Board. Right now, Matt and I are doing 4 profiles every week. They're about 12 to 15-minute breakdowns from an analytical and a film study standpoint, and their values. And right now we have 24 players up there. So we appreciate you checking us out there. But gentlemen, I can't thank you enough. I love coming on every March. We always do it right before the tournament, right? Isn't that the week?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, go Huskies. We are definitely the best team in the nation. Doesn't mean we'll win, but we are the best team in the nation.
Yeah, I got you picked in my bracket. My going for 2 brackets.
Yeah, but
Hey.
I win that every year. It's
Yeah,
fine.
Ryan's won it the last 2 years, so let's not talk about that.
It's not to be done back to back, baby. We're going 3-peat.
They're good.
All right,
They're
Ryan.
nasty.
What you got going on?
Man, same old. Here every Wednesday night, going for 2. Find me also at the Rookie Big Board, the Dynasty Big Board podcast. And not really on Twitter that much, but I'm still there sometimes. 534.
All right, good stuff. As always, guys, you can follow me on Twitter at Jeff Lambert 77. If you missed our announcement today, I will be hosting for the second time the Scott Fishbowl live draft in Washington, D.C. So I know I live here in Washington, D.C. So if you're watching the show and you want to attend, go check out my Twitter profile, find the link so you can attend. You don't even got to be part of the draft. Just come hang out with us. We got a great spot this year to hold this thing. So go find that link to sign up for the Scott Fishbowl, which we're kicking off here pretty soon. So before we know it, it'll be Scott Fishbowl time, and that's all we'll be talking about. But as always, you can find the show at Going for 2 Live on YouTube. And last but not least, I'm going to say goodbye to John. Thank you once again for coming on. And Ryan, I will see you next week. So for Ryan, for Jeff, for John, I'm Jeff, and we will see y'all next week.